Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy Shanghai20 at YouTube.com. This is gonna be my review or my little vlog on the continuation of the Flash Arrow crossover. Um, and I want to just preface this by saying that I really, really like the Arrow. I've watched the Arrow from the very beginning. I've seen the first season. I've seen all of the episodes really, and I like the show. I really do. I think the change in tone between the Arrow and the Flash is well needed. Um, but I have to say this was a disappointing sequel or continuation. I really, really enjoyed the Flash one. I thought they did a really good job. I thought there was a lot of light humor mixed in with a little darkness in it, and I thought that in general it was really enjoyable. This one, it seemed like they did it completely separate from the other team in terms of the people behind the scenes that make the scripts and stuff. It seemed like they didn't quite work together on this because a lot of things that happened in the first one didn't make sense in the second one. It was just kind of it was. I don't want to say stupid because it's a dismissive word. Not only that, but it doesn't really explain to somebody else what you felt about it. But that's the only thing I could come up to when I kept hearing or like listening to what was going on because it just kind of didn't make any sense to me. Because when we first started the show, it goes to a point where they show the past. In the distant past in ancient Egypt, and it shows that Shaira and Carter Hall were like a priestess, and Carter Hall was a prince, and Vandal Savage was like the advisor, the Grand Vizier. Think of Jafar from the Aladdin. That's how who Vandal Savage is supposed to be. So stop right now. We're gonna talk about this for a few seconds. I'm not gonna go into details about it, but let's get some shit straight. Vandal Savage is not from ancient Egypt. He's from before that. He's a caveman. And yes, it has tied to in the show they tied it to meteorites, but in real DC mythology before they did the New 52, which shall not be named again because I hate the New 52, but he is a caveman, and a meteorite hits the Earth. Everyone else runs away from it because they're cavemen and they're afraid. But he doesn't. He stays there, and he sleeps with on the rock, and he sleeps next to the rock because it's warm, and he gets powers. He gets immortality from that. He gets enhanced intelligence, enhanced strength from it. He's not tied to anybody. He's not tied to Shaira. He's not tied to Carter. He's not tied to Hawkman or Hawkgirl. He's his own entity, and that kind of disappointed me tremendously when it came to this. I felt that it's pretty niche or cliche to try to attach him to new characters. I guess to try to make them more important. Because as I said in the last interview, I found the person who played Carter Hall or Hawkman to be unlikable. I didn't like his performance. I didn't like his deliverance of his lines. I felt he didn't do a very good job. It felt like he was just blah. And I mean, maybe it's because he's not going to be in the Legends of Tomorrow, which I'm pretty sure he's not. I've seen a lot of trailers. He's not in it. So I'm just wondering where the hell he's going to go. But I just didn't like him as a character. They could have recast it and done a better job. Also, with the whole scenes about the Egyptian times, there wasn't any white people in ancient Egypt, and Carter Hall is blatantly white. The Pharaoh was white. All of his servants was white. If you took a look in in the background of that scene, it's very white, and I find that to be very um what do I say? Fucked up. There is no white people in Egypt. Let's get some shit straight. They're Egyptian or black, and black is just about Egyptian. Everyone comes from Africa, and if you guys know, there wasn't. milky skinned people in Egypt. In Egypt, it's just not happening. But that's just me as a black viewer seeing things in my own tones, in my own views. But they also the way that they tie them together is very. I need to find a better word than stupid, but it was very. It just wasn't good because from what you see, it shows that Shaira and Carter Hall or Prince Khufu um, were in love and they were together. And apparently, in society, in ancient Egyptian society, a priestess can't, or somebody from like religion can't mess with people from like noble class or like pharaohs. But I mean, think about that seriously. He's a prince. His father's the pharaoh. If he wanted to he wanted to be with Shaira, he could have. Who's gonna stop him? It's pretty pathetic. It's very flimsy, and apparently, meteor strikes were happening, and there's a struggle. There's a fight between the three, and Vandal Savage just kills uh, Prince Khufu and Shaira, and he goes, "I will follow you from the next life to the next life to the next life to the next." Now, I mean, of course, ancient Egyptians believed in reincarnation, so that's not believable. But just because he's upset because he couldn't be with the princess himself, or they still haven't really disclosed really what his major malfunction with them are what were. But he said he would continue to follow him, and then the roof caves in and kills him. I suppose, or maybe it didn't. It just buried him. But I mean, after that point, I'm wondering to myself, like, how does that make him immortal? How does that make anything anything? How does that make their life death cycle tied to his? Doesn't make any sense. It truly felt like they went, all right, we have these characters, we need to make them comparable to each other, or we need to make some kind of connection between the two, which felt very very loose. I felt they could have done just said Vandal Savage was around before cavemen and just that. But to tie him to Shaira and to Carter Hall is just, I felt was pretty lazy. But I spent too much time doing it. I'm saying talking about that anyway. But later on, after those scenes, you see them go to a farmhouse. Um, Even I like how how Speedy says, "Oh, I think I saw this in a movie once." I think that's a reference to the Ninja Turtles when they get beat by the Foot Clan and they go back to like a farmhouse to try to regroup and try to rethink. Um, but Oliver says it's because because Vandal Savage can sense Shaira and didn't want to stay in the city to give him an easier target. But you just said that he can sense where you are, so it doesn't matter where she goes. He'll find her there too. So I was finding that a bit dicey as well. Like I said, there's a lot of great things in the Arrow, but in this case, a lot of that stuff is very dicey. They made very loose connections on a lot of things that were just kind of disappointing to me. Um, but then Team Arrow, Team Flash breaks up into doing what they do best, is the cool stuff, which is like I don't know, Cisco and Caitlin and Felicity are gonna work on gloves, because if you notice in the last episode, Barry tried to take the staff away from Vandal Savage and he couldn't. So they're gonna work on some anti-metal, inf metal gloves, which I thought was actually really cool. Introduces inf metal, where if you guys know, if you're a DC head, inf metal is a metal that can actually affect supernatural creatures. Batman has inf metal brass knuckles, which is awesome as hell, and he beat the shit out of Etrigan, or at least punched Etrigan a couple of times in a couple of comics, which was really cool. Um, but yeah, that's team, and he goes Team Nerd, so that's Team Nerd. Um, And then unfortunately a lot of the other characters kind of fall to the side. When you have this many characters, when you have two huge groups of people, it's hard to share the screen time. So I understand you couldn't really keep everyone's plots going at the same time, let alone have everyone like interact like that. When they still have this awkward thing with Shaira and Cisco, where Cisco is hearing all this stuff about him being Carter being like her soulmate and everything, and him kind of being a little butthurt about that, which I felt was also really weird because I understand she's like has past lives and a lot of stuff happened to her back then, but the simple fact of the matter is, and I didn't like how they kind of kept trying to point this thing home, was she has to embrace her other lives and embrace this and embrace that, but that's not her, unfortunately. Like, it's not her to decide, well, not to decide, but it's not her life. She is Kendra, whatever her name is. She is that. No matter how many past lives she has, it's still her life. So I mean, they kind of make her bound to her past, which is kind of weird to me. In most archetypical situations, you always told, you aren't who you were, you are who you are. But I don't know. These are all just observations that I see, and I kind of wanted to bring up. So there's this whole montage of um, Hawkman trying to get Hawkgirl to be upset so she can use her wings, which I'm really dubious on how they're going to be doing the wings, because just on the fact that when Hawkman was doing it, I thought his scenes were atrocious. I thought the CG on those weren't very well, weren't very done well, and I'm wondering if they're gonna do her wings more sparingly, which I hope so, because when I first saw her costume, I was kind of wary about it as well, but it actually looks pretty good on her. I think it dawns well from the comic side to TV side, because a lot of stuff won't work. I mean, I still love her with the, I guess it's like a yellow bustier with the helmet and just some leggings. I mean, of course, in almost all superhero situations, they're never going to do it straight from the comics, even though that's where everyone knows these people from, and that's why they like them. So I don't know why anybody would think they would ridicule them. But I mean, she gets her costume and whatever. Then there's a subplot with well, there's two subplots going on here. There's Barry, when he's running to a meeting, because while they're at the farmhouse, they get a call from Vandal Savage, because he knows their numbers, and tells them Barry and Barry and Oliver to meet them at some spot. Actually, I'm sorry. You know what? They didn't get a phone call. It was from what's his name? The new Ra's al Ghul, which I won't get into either. But the new Ra's al Ghul, Thea's father calls and says that Vandal Savage wanted to have a meeting. So on the way there, Barry has a spoiler. He has an incarnation with his future self, which is like a tip to him, since that happened in season one, that he is gonna go running back in time, which I love. This is one of the parts that is so cool to me. The fact that something like that happens, and even Barry's aware that it's not going to end up well. It never ends up well for him. He even says that a few times in the show itself. He's like, messing with time is never a good thing. It never ends up well. And of course, it usually doesn't. I mean, the last time he did it, he went back to try to save his mother. Didn't save his mother, changed a lot of stuff happening. When the I guess it was Weather Wizard did a tidal wave over the city, he ran back and changed time. It was better before he did it, but he had to try to save the city, and it changed up a lot of stuff. So he knows there's a big problem with that, and the only person he confided in with this was Cisco, because Cisco's been through all that stuff, and this is why, like I said, there's a big divergence between the Arrow and the Flash. The Flash, they're more of a close-knit group, so those kind of major, important, I guess, events, they don't keep to themselves, because they understand the gravity of the situation. A lot of time I see in the Arrow, a lot of things get kept from each other for very loose reasons. It's like, oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings. Oh, I don't want you to get involved. But it's like you're involved anyway, even without saying anything. You're still involved. So for me, that I really enjoyed those moments when like they show the diversity or the differences between the Team Arrow and Team Flash. Um, when they go to the meeting, Vandal Savage basically says, you know, bring me Shaira and bring me Prince Khufu, or I'll destroy both of your cities. I mean, he's sitting there telling them that in the middle of an empty warehouse when he doesn't have the staff, and it's the Arrow, it's Green Arrow, the Flash, and Ra's al Ghul, or you know, I don't want to keep saying Ra's al Ghul because I don't really. It's Malcolm Merlin. I'm not a huge fan of him being Ra's al Ghul. I tried to hold back from that, but I'm just not a fan of Malcolm Merlin being Ra's al Ghul. But he's standing in front of three capable people, and they don't even try to stop him. He doesn't have the staff. He doesn't have anything to do anything. He doesn't have a large crew of people working for him. So if they took him out, that's it. And they didn't do anything. They just walked away from the situation, which I thought was, I mean, great for the plot, but it was kind of just weird to me. Just weird situations that the Arrow side of the crossover did that I just didn't understand, quite frankly. After that, it becomes the montage of, you know, getting ready for the fight with Vandal, or what their plan is going to be, which they didn't have, and this weird subplot with Ali's son, and basically he finds her, and for some reason he still thinks when he first sees the son that it's going to be his son, even though his mother did tell him that they aborted the baby and she left and everything else like that. But he followed her home, basically stalker style, and basically asked. I thought that was a really cool situation because, I mean, asking, I mean, just out and out going, yo, is he my son? And she's like, no, don't even worry about it. You're not your son. I met his father like when I got to the city, so don't worry about it. But he still gets a hair sample from a hat, a convenient hat that dropped on the floor, and gets buried to analyze it. Of course, it's his son, and he goes and confronts her again, and she tells him that her mother paid him to leave and everything, but she doesn't cash the check. She still has the fucking check. So let's think, why? Why, oh why did she leave? And she went, because your life was so crazy, my son was better off not being in it. Like, she knows that he's the Green Arrow, which, of course, you know, it doesn't even indicate that at all. But it's like, what are you talking about? At that point, he's a guy who came back from being dead. Well, even at that point, he didn't even go on the boat yet. So, it's like, there was no real reason for her to have left and to say that it's not his son. But also to give a caveat that he cannot tell anybody if he wants a relationship with his son. Now, I don't know about anybody out there in YouTube land, but you gotta know that somebody of his stature can go, listen, I respect you. He's my son. I'm going to tell anybody I need to tell that I have a son. And if you have a problem with that and try to keep my son from you, then I'll see you in court. And that'll be it. A lot of the storylines in this episode are weird to me. They're dubious and weird to connect. Because it just doesn't make sense. Because at the same time that Oliver finds out that he has a son, Felicity apparently is following Oliver and finds out the same information, which is just weird to me. It's just weird. And, like, instead of, like, talking about it and telling her the exact situation, he literally just clams the fuck up and she gets so mad and storms off. Now, I mean, for me, I think Felicity is a great character. I think they've done a lot to develop her character more. If you guys don't know, Felicity has never really been a main character. From the very beginning, she was supposed to be just a sub-character, but her acting and everyone liking her so much, she became a bigger part of the story, which I really appreciate. I really love Felicity Smoke. I'm Team Felicity and Team Black Iris. Now I call her Black Iris just because Iris isn't black, but she is. Well, in the show she's black, and she is drop dead gorgeous. So, Team Flash, it's Black Iris. Team Arrow, it's definitely Felicity Smoke. But that whole subplot was just weird to me. I didn't really appreciate it that much. I didn't really like it. But spoiler, after that it's the big fight. But since Oliver has been so racked with turmoil from his baby mama, he doesn't make the right decisions in the team structure when they go to fight Vandal Savage. And for me, I felt this is again what is going on with how they structure this show. They literally go, okay, we're gonna do the plan. We're gonna use Kendra as bait. We're gonna bring Carter Hall and Kendra there for him to get. It's gonna be Green Arrow, the Flash, and that's it. Even though they definitely had Diggle, Black Canary, and Speedy there, he's like, no, 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 you guys stay here and hang out. Just have a tea party or whatever. You guys chill. It's only gonna be us. And what happened? They all fucking died, except for the Flash. He runs so fast. That's the foreshadowing of him running back in time because of the shockwave. I'm not going to explain what happens during that fight, but the shockwave of what happens forces Barry to run as fast as he can, and it actually makes him run back in time to where he can redo that whole situation that just happened. And I mean, personally for me, this is when the show started to get a little more interesting, just for the fact that, I mean, you showed when, you've seen this before if you watch The Flash, the differences when they change up and what happens next, when it goes back to being normal. And this is like, everyone died. So Flash, when he comes back, he's like, it's not going to work out, Ollie. None of this is going to work out. We got to do things differently than what we've done. Like how you handle, talking to Felicity, how you handle a team situation. And for me, that was a lot better. It fixed a lot of the problems. I almost felt like they went, all right, listen, the beginning of the show was just a wash. Let's do whatever we want with that. And then afterwards, we'll do the real thing. So you won't have to try so hard in the beginning. Because it's just going to be a throwaway. Which, not to say it's a throwaway, but I wish it was. Because a lot of that stuff was just direct to me. It wasn't very good. And they start to switch things up. Oliver talks to Cisco and says, you need to help Kendra, awaken her powers and to understand how things work. And, he chooses a different path how to talk to his baby mom. And, I mean, even to the point where even though he does the same thing, which is incredibly disappointing to me. I mean, I feel if you have Felicity, somebody who's strong, smart, intelligent, like Felicity Smoke, you can explain to her what the fuck's going on and say you can't tell anybody. Or even have to a certain point just go, fuck it, I'm going to tell you because she's not here. My baby mom is not here. No one is here that's going to tell my secrets. So I will tell you because you are the people that keep my secrets. So why should I keep them from you again? And I mean, these are these things, like I say, from Arrow and the Flash that are like so different. The Arrow is built on suspense, intrigue, and lying to each other to build this intrigue, which is just weird to me. Because this whole time, Felicity's like for uncharacteristically worried about why Oliver looks a certain way, to not tell her, and even in the beginning, before the time lapse or the time skip back, she is like, I can't believe you didn't tell me that you had a son. All he had to say was literally, I didn't know I had a son until 2 days ago. And I was promised not to tell anybody, or I couldn't see my son. Which still is a stupid setup. And I think if you actually told Felicity that, she would have went, alright, let's get a lawyer. Let's get your son. Like, I mean, these things are just weird to me in terms of just how they set things up. But anyway, it it ends on a really crazy note for me personally. It ends with like Kendra going with Carter for no reason. Like, okay, they were reincarnated back in the day. She doesn't know this dude. She doesn't like this dude. Why would she go with this dude for no fucking reason whatsoever? I mean, of course we know it's to go set up for the Legends of Tomorrow, which is all throughout this episode they have trailers for it, which are fantastic. It looks really good. If you haven't had a chance, I might do a video on Rip Hunter so you guys can know who the hell Rip Hunter is, because most people I doubt would know, but he's a great superhero. Well, not so much a superhero, but he's a great protagonist in DC. Has done a lot of crazy things. I have a lot of comics on him, so I'll speak on that at length at other times. But um, it ends on a real sour, for me, a real sour note, because Cisco leaves. Well, Kendra leaves and goes, "I'm gonna go with Carter," which I felt was just like stupid to begin with. And having Cisco make like a homing beacon or a communication beacon for her to contact him whenever she needed it. I think that's going to show up a lot in Legends of Tomorrow, where we can get big crossovers with like everyone from Legends of Tomorrow, everyone from the Flash, everyone from the Arrow, and that would be really ridiculous and cool. Um, Also, the ending with Malcolm Merlin was also really. I mean, they had to have an explanation for what's going to happen in the Legends of Tomorrow and how Vandal Savage gets there. But how, from where it is now, how it ends till then, I still don't know how they're going to do that. And I also found it just kind of stupid because, again, I'm using this word stupid so much, but that's when it comes to mind when I'm watching this. That's all I'm thinking, because it's just like a lot of stuff. It's like, why are you doing this? Why is this happening? Why is the setups are like this? And then it doesn't really work that way for the Flash. But see, that's again one of my favorite lines of the entire show was Barry talking to Oliver after he comes back from time and goes, "My world's just weirder than yours. I have, I fought gorillas. I fought, what was it? Immortal madman from the past trying to kill let's see, an ancient Egyptian reincarnated Egyptian princess. No, Egyptian priestess. Like, those things happen on the Flash, and a lot of times on a lot of DC comics, that kind of stuff happens to a lot of people. But the Arrow is kind of based in kind of, I wouldn't say reality, but it's more like a Batman type situation. He's worried and focused on his city alone. Like Batman will have connections with all these people and be able to help and contribute to the situation, but he's Gotham. Batman is Gotham. The Green Arrow is Star City. That is his city. He will worry about that before he's gonna worry about the world. So I mean, just later on, guys. I don't know. Tell me down in the comments below, what did you think of the new episode or the crossover? Again, I'm really sorry I'm late with it. There's a bunch of stuff going on, and it's just a little late on this video. But tell me in the comments below, what do you think about the new episode, and what do you think about kind of how they ended it? And how do you, and write in the comments, how do you think that Vandal Savage will make it to the Legends of Tomorrow show to be the main antagonist there? And that's it for me, guys. If you like my stuff, as always, subscribe to my channel at Shanghai20 at YouTube.com. It's always great to see you guys and read your comments and enjoy what you guys got to say. But Shanghai20 at YouTube.com. You can hit me up on Facebook at Shanghai20 on Facebook. And we'll see you guys later. So take it easy.